Ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Get your
I'm
shakies
here.
out.
I'm gonna need some breath work after this.
No, please go on.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Humanhood series, brought to you by yours truly, Melanie Peralta, and
Casey Riley.
the series that is always devoted to humanizing your human experience and making personal development more personal. We're going to get real personal today with our guest, who actually is a total stranger to me.
To both of us.
To both of us. We actually do not know this man.
We found him on the side of the street.
And that's why he's here. That's why he's here, so that we can get to know this man. So I just want to welcome Alex Catedral. Thank you so much for showing up with us today.
Thank you so much.
Yo, okay. So I met you 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I met you 2 weeks ago. And I met you through a vision that you had that you so beautifully brought to life and I got to be a part of, called the Untitled Gathering. And first of all, when I got invited to the experience, it was Jenna who invited me. And anything that she does, I'm down for. I knew it was going to be beautiful. And she said the same exact thing about you. She was like, as soon as he brought this vision to me, I was like, yes, let's do it. If Alex is doing it, I know it's going to be great. So that was my first introduction to you. And wow, what an impression you left. This series is so special to us. We are very particular about who we bring on here. But when I met you and I experienced you and I witnessed your creation, I was like, wow. First of all, the soul that was in it. I'm constantly talking about how our industry lacks soul. It does. And the Untitled Gathering was filled with it, filled with heart and soul. I loved the questions that you asked to everybody. And I loved that we did not share our names or our titles until the very end. It was so cool. It was a beautiful creation. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. And I was telling Casey, I was like, there was a question that somebody asked at the very end. I cannot remember who it was. Or no, there was a statement when we were all going around sharing.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is so beautiful. Thank you for putting this together, Alex. We're so grateful that you wanted to come and share our stories. But don't forget that you have a story too. And when they said that, you got emotional. And it really hit you. And she said, tell your story too. Your story deserves to be heard. So I would love for you to share that with us, because we don't know who you are. And we want to know who you are. Who's the man behind Catedral Collective and the docu-series or the documentary style that you do? Who are you?
Yeah. No, thank
As
you.
a human.
No, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you both for having me.
Of course.
Thanks for all the kind words. That's just is a long time coming and a dream for a while. So it's really cool to have it come together. It's really interesting when you brought that up again, because I got emotional again. I'm not quite sure what it is, to be honest with you, like why I feel emotional about it. Yeah, I don't know. But that's maybe something we can unpack, or I will at some point. But yeah, so honestly, like right after the Untitled Gathering, so we do stuff called the Founders Video. And the goal is to help founders be able to tell their story, because most founders don't take the time to stop and slow down and realize like what it took to be where they're at today. So the goal is, I love being on this podcast and what you're doing, because like our vision and hope is like to bring humanity back to business, right? And so I feel like it's really aligned in terms of what you're doing. Yeah. And so the next day I was like, look, I'm asking all these people to do it, to be vulnerable, to be authentic, but I have to do that myself now, and getting all this feedback from people of how they experience it. I'm like, okay, well, I'll see what they actually mean, So the next day we went to the studio, and my buddy from Texas was here to help facilitate the questions as well for me. And so one of the crew, Riley, he ended up asking me the questions. And that day I ended up started telling my story and I started crying. I started weeping for like 30 minutes over some stuff that happened a year and a half ago. And that really transformed who I was. And just realizing, oh my goodness, like I haven't stopped. I've talked about it and I processed it, but not in the way that I needed to. And so I was able to really release a lot of that. And the next day we went back in and did some more. And my buddy asked me questions and realized like, oh, I was just like so hyped. I was like so on fire because I realized all the stuff that happened and then where we're at now, I was just so filled with gratitude. And so it was this really cool process of, okay, now first we start with a bunch of founders and asking these questions, seeing them be vulnerable, you know, and help draw that out. And then like go into this next process of like, okay, now I'm going to dive deeper from my story. I started crying and weeping. Then the next day I was fired up. And that's usually the process that I see with founders is like, we go through this process of their storytelling where I'm asking all these questions, they go deep and then unlocks all this stuff. And then they're like, wow, I forgot that all this like happened, you know? And then they're like, oh, I feel so fired up. I'm ready to like take over the world essentially, you know? And I was like, what does that even, I was like, oh, it's awesome. Now I really realize what it means. And so it's been really cool I told my wife this year, I said, look, I want to do more public speaking and I want to be on more podcasts and like things like that. I don't know when that's going to happen or how it's going to happen, but I'm just going to do it. And so I think part of it is really humbling, you know, of like, it's like happening and it's just like, not in a way it feels forceful, but just like relationally. And so it feels really nice and really thankful to be here and be able to do that. And maybe that's why I feel really emotional. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I think I'm just processing out loud.
You're a verbal processor.
Yeah,
I am too.
Okay, cool.
I am too. Literally, sometimes in these conversations, I'm like, whoa, I just had a whole moment.
She goes through it all the time. She does.
Yes. Okay, I'm
Yes,
glad
we
you
love a
understand.
verbal processor.
Cool. Well, then I'm here. That's all I am.
What I love that you mentioned was you hadn't really taken yourself through the process that you have your clients go through. And as a founder and an entrepreneur myself, I find that the only way I can become a better breathwork practitioner is by continuously doing my own work. So you're going to see my ass on the mat every month going through the process so that one, I can continue to move through my process, but I can be a better facilitator because I don't know what you're going through if I haven't gone through it myself. It is very easy to tell someone, tell your story or come on and do breathwork. It's not that big of a deal. It is that big of a deal. And so I love that you took a step back and said, let me take myself through this process. So now when I work with founders, I actually know what the process feels like. It's an embodied experience in knowing.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I love that. And I think like the ways that I've told my own story are like, because music is a big thing for me too, like hip hop and stuff like that. And so that's how I process my emotions. That's how I like share things in my life. And I have my own podcast. I'll interview people and process things through that way. But I think this specific way, I realized when I started sharing things in front of other people that I'm working with, they're like, oh, now you know how it feels like. And I'm like, oh, you know, I guess I haven't really put myself in this specific position like this before. And so, now I'm like, oh.
I think that's why you get emotional. Because one, now you're in the space of fully allowing yourself to be seen entirely. And when you're the one that's behind the camera, there's a different level of safety back there. And so now it's like, now the spotlight's on you. You're peeling back your layers. It's more raw. It's more vulnerable. And it's like, oh shit, now you guys are going to see who Alex actually is.
Yeah.
And that can be like, the emotions could be, like you said, gratitude. And it could also just be like a little bit of the uncomfortableness that comes with evolution because you're cracking yourself open in a new way. So I'm curious because you said prior to us filming, you said you've been into this for 15 years. That's a long time to be devoted to something. What was it from the beginning that got you into this? Were you always into film and like cameras and photos and videography? Like what age are you?
35.
35. Okay. So you've been doing this since you were 20. Like, essentially, we're still kid. Like, you can even drink alcohol legally. Like, you can even have a shot of tequila if you wanted to legally. So, what was it back then, the younger version of you that felt passionate about this to pursue it to the point where you're 15 years deep?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So
And what was the equipment like back then? Because 20 years ago, were there cameras?
15 years ago. Come on, of course.
That's a great question. Were there? Well, it's funny actually. Now that you say that, it's like YouTube was just emerging in that time period. You know, so it's like it's really funny to think of how much everything has evolved. You know, but no, but actually, I started when I was like 17, 18. So. I was like, oh, 20? Oh, okay. So actually, it's been like 17 years.
Wow.
But it started with music, and with all my journey in my life and stuff, like faith is just a big part of it. So that's a huge thing for me. Is my parents? I'm Filipino American, right? So my parents are like, you gotta be a nurse. You know what I mean? You gotta be in the medical system.
Is that a Filipino thing?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, all my friends. All their parents were like, oh, you gotta go in the nursing field. Like, it was just a thing. You just do. My mom was a nurse, so that's the reason why we're able to come to America partly, and she was able to provide for our family because she was a nurse. So if you go to a hospital, you'll always find multiple Filipinos. I don't know if you noticed, but
Noted.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna be looking around.
Yes, and you want the Filipino because they're
smart.
They take it serious. It's generational.
Yes, and they're like super hospitable, right? Like they're really caring, so they're really gonna make sure that you're good. So just in case you're ever in that position, which I hope you never are. But I went to GCC, Glendale Community College, and I ended up taking a music production course thing, and then got the degree, and they have like a really amazing studio, and so I really got into music, and we ended up starting our own our own label. So I had like a community of artists, and so there was like 30 of us, and we did everything from like singer songwriter, hip hop, rock. It was like a bunch of different things, and so we'd film our own stuff. We would make our own. We'd do our own marketing. We made our own merch. Did our own CDs. Kickstarter just launched, so we literally like raised money. We did our own shows and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's where I started like taking film more seriously. But I guess prior to that, just in general, my grandpa, he always had a camera, like, you know, those big, huge, like tape cameras, and he would film everything. So he was always documenting. And then my dad was the same way. And so I realized later on that, you know, what is in our camera roll is what we value, right? And so, you know, it's like, if you're holding a camera and you're filming, so people would always ask me, like, why do you film everything all the time? And I'm like, one day you'll understand, you know? And as people have been passing away and stuff like that, in some, like I have all this footage, and it's now become things that like people like really cherish, you know? And not that that's the only context for what that is, you know, but it's just an example of like the power of like what we care about. And for me, I value the life that I get to live and the people I get to live it with. And even though some of those relationships change and shift, they still hold a special place in my heart, you know? And so I get to share that with my kid. I get to share that with my family, and all those moments like shape me. So yeah, I realized that seeing my family and my parents do it, I ended up like started doing that. And so so the first time I realized like this is what I wanted to do, my buddy, he was a skateboard filmmaker, and he was like, all right, Alex, this is the second angle, all right? Shout out to Justice Ott, because you're the man, bro. But he was like, all right, this is the second angle. Just sit here, and I'll tell you when to press record. And I was like, okay. And so I just sat there, and he said, all right, record. And then we like filmed it. I just pressed it. And I was like, oh, okay. Then we went to his house, and then he showed me how to edit, and he just was editing it. And I was like, oh. So he was on Premiere, and I started iMovie, and I was just editing everything on iMovie and just filming our own stuff, posting stuff on YouTube. And that's how I started. And I just started from making music with my friends. And then I moved to Pennsylvania, and my mentor, he was like, Alex, like, you're really talented. You should figure out a way how to make money. So he went to a chamber of commerce, and I was in small town Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh. And he was like, all right, he came back. He's like, all right, I got you a job. You're going to do this restaurant, just did a multi-million-dollar renovation, and they only have one chef, and they're only serving dinner. And we're going to charge them $250. And I was like, what? There's no way. Like,
Is that a lot?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was like, multi-million-dollar. What you mean? Like, what?
I was 20.
You know
I was
what?
20.
I've
That is a
totally
lot,
been
I'm
there.
20.
I've totally been there. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Remember, this was the olden days.
Yes.
Minimal equipment.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
$250 was actually
It's a
a lot
lot.
of money.
Yeah. Paid for rent. You know? Like, what? But yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. I remember, because I was like, I didn't go to school for this. So my brother and I we were talking, and I was like crying because I was like, bro, like, who am I to be doing this? Like, I didn't go to school. I don't deserve this, like, blah, blah. And he was like, bro, it's okay. Like, you got this. Just take all the stuff that you've done and just make a reel out of it. And I was like, all right. So I stayed up till like 6 a.m. We went there at 8 a.m. And we toured the place, and I was like, oh my gosh, this place is so beautiful. And so we sit down, and the lady's like, all right, cool. Like, let's see what you've done. I was like, okay. So I showed her everything. And then as soon as it was finished, she was like, all right, so I don't know if you know this, but I graduated with a photojournalism degree from Pitt. And I was like, oh my God.
Here it goes.
Yeah, exactly. She's about to rip me apart. And she was like, and honestly, if any of my professors were to see this, they would have said that you had everything from composition to movement to lighting. It's like, she's like, it's beautiful. It's perfect. Like, pacing is great. She's like, yeah, let's do it. And in my mind, you know, I was freaking out, and I was like, all right, you know, in person, I was like, oh, perfect. Like, let's go. But
Trying to play
I was
cool.
like, yeah.
Anxiety.
I was like, oh yeah. But I realized in that moment, like, for me, the things that I was afraid about the night before, you know, I felt like I was like, yo, like, if you need a degree, here you go. You know, if that's the thing that you're afraid of, let me speak into that. And I think that was something that really has shaped my journey in this, is like, okay, even though I feel afraid, even though I feel like I'm not ready, I'm more ready than I think I am. And I need to step into these things because you don't know what's going to happen. And he was like, all right, here's a degree. Here's all the things that you want. So I was like, okay, cool. So I kind of, now I just step into things, like, even though I feel like I'm not confident or I don't know, it's like really shaped how I've moved and grown in the business and in the journey. So that's a big part of how I started the journey from music to that moment. So that was a long.
That was great.
But, yeah.
Those pivotal moments, those core experiences that show us like, oh shit, I can actually do this. This is for me. Like, everybody has one of those moments, and everybody's looks different, but you in that moment thinking, who the hell am I? And then she's like, actually, you're that guy. This looks great. And then you're like, oh shit, I am that guy. All right, let's run it. And then there you go. And you did it. So, okay, in the midst of all that, you said that you were your husband and you're a father.
Yeah.
You continued with this work. You said that you were doing some other things, and then you started your own business after you got married.
Yeah.
And after you had a child. So how was your journey in this storytelling and capturing other people's companies, businesses? What was that like in the midst of, like, did you already know your wife back then? Or did you like fall in love with her while you were in the process? Like, you know, because we know, like, the whole life circumstance. You're not just a videographer. You're not just this person who owns a media company. Like, throughout the process of building that, you fell in love. You got married. You became a father, you know? And sometimes we don't get the totality of people's life's journey. So did you already know your wife, or what's I want the tea on that.
Mel always wants the dating stories and love life.
I know.
Yeah, I'm
I
about
love
it.
love. I love family. I love babies. Like, I want to know, how did all of this? How did your family unfold in the middle of your dream unfolding?
That's
Yeah.
a great question, because a lot of people do it. You mentioned this before. The moment of, I got to take this seriously. I have a
Yeah.
wife and a child to take care of now.
So did you know the wife already?
No, I met her through the process.
Wow.
Yeah. This is just in my head, so I'm going to mention it. Yeah. But the reason, so where I'm at today, one of the reasons the reason why I mentioned that being Filipino American was like big for me, because a lot of my friends are Filipino and they experience this. And I was like, yo, you guys are more talented than me. You guys have to do something with your creativity, but we didn't have a space to do that, right? It wasn't normal at that time yet. And so the reason why I kept on going was like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I got to figure out a way to do it for myself so that they know that they can do it. Because if I can't do it, then they can't. But if I can, then they definitely can. And so that's has been the journey. And so music has always been a huge part of that. And and so when I was doing music, I always like to tell people that it's so important to share your story and your passions, because I remember in one of the hardest times of my life, I tore one of my ACLs and I moved back, and I was writing music, and it was like one of the most fruitful times where I could process things. And there was a line in one of my songs, a friend of mine from Pennsylvania, we were in the same church together, but we were like dating different people. And I posted the song, and there's a line in there that goes like, my friends weren't there for me when I left, kind of thing. And she was like, oh, I totally relate to that. So we started talking, and then she was in part of some of my music videos that I would just like send stuff to, just like some funny things. And we just started talking, and we ended up getting really close. She was dating other people, and I was single, I was like writing scripts and stuff, trying to test that out. Like, I'm going to be on a Netflix show or something. Going to Starbucks with my crutches and like this like artist. And it was like, yeah, it was ridiculous.
Were you trying to be a music artist at that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of music?
Rap. Yeah,
Rap?
hip-hop.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Do it.
Okay. I'm gonna need you to drop a bar, dude.
Well,
Drop a bar on us one time, please.
wait, seriously?
Yeah. Right now.
I mean, okay, so this is why I wasn't successful. Let me tell you this, because I can't remember my lyrics. My
Fair.
wife, yeah. So my
He's
wife,
like, I needed a camera to capture things so we could remember what happened.
exactly. This is why I am in the business. It's for myself to remember. But yeah, I mean, I could send you something. No, I was literally like, oh my gosh, if I bring this up and they ask me, what would I do? And I was like trying to remember the lyrics. That one thing that I memorized, because it was a song I wrote for my son. But I can't remember it now. He would help me.
I honestly, that happens to me all the time.
Really?
Yes. It's like the pressure of being put on the spot. Everything goes blank. I experience. She knows.
I do it to her all the time. Like,
And I'm
can
like-
you sing this? She's like, no. Come on, you do this.
Okay, so back to your wife.
Yeah.
We'll get him to drop a bar later.
Yeah. I'll try. But yeah, so I remember she was like, she was on Tinder and going on dates and stuff, and I was at church camp.
Nice. I bet you my husband's at church camp right
It
now.
probably is. One's so innocent, the other one a little spicy. This is good. Perfect mix.
Absolutely. And it's so when I look back, it's so embarrassing because I don't know why I did this, but she was on a date with the guy and we were texting, and I was like, I don't know why you're texting me right now, you're on a date. But I sent her a selfie of myself And I mean, granted.
A selfie of us. Who else would it be of?
Oh yeah. Okay, another thing. I'm so bad with like phrases and stuff, so my wife makes fun of me so much. Anyways, yes, a selfie of myself. But she, yeah, it was so funny because this guy, she showed me pictures and stuff of them together, or whatever. I mean, he's like this super buff guy, so I don't know why I did this, but I had like a tank top on and had like long hair at the time because I used to have a bun, so it was like to my butt, and so I had my hair out. It was like everywhere, and I was like flexing and like taking a picture. I'm like, what am I? Anyway, so I look back at that, it's so embarrassing because this guy is like.
Apparently, it worked though.
No, it didn't. She's like, why did you send this to me?
Honestly,
like later.
though, when I used to get those pictures back in the day, like the mirror pics,
Yes,
shirt off, I was like, don't send that.
Hey,
Don't
okay.
send that.
It was my shirt wasn't off. It was just a tank top. Okay.
It was just
Yes.
flexing. That's it.
Yeah, but it wasn't like an intention. Like it wasn't like I'm like pushing really hard on the camera. You know what I mean? And it just so happens to be flexed, you know. But anyways, so I'm at church camp and
Church camp.
Taking mirror.
taking mirror selfies. Yes.
At church camp.
Yes, it's so embarrassing. And granted, I'm like 29, and I'm with my parents at the time, like because I just like recovered from my ACL. So I was, anyways. So we were there, and I was texting her, and she's Caucasian European descent. She's white.
Trying to make it sound fancy. She's Caucasian European. She's white.
You know, hey. And so I was texting her in the mountains, and I was telling her, I was like, you know, things are just better if you know I'm sure it's not a good time. He's like, yeah, it's like the worst I've ever been on. She's like, I'd rather be, you know, hanging out with you. I had a really good time. I was like, yeah. And I was like, you know what? Did you know? Because there was like this Filipino and like white couple that was at my the church camp, and their kids were running around, and I was like, oh, they're so cute. And I was like, did you don't take my advice for any relationship stuff, but I said to her, I texted her, have you ever seen a Filipino white baby before? And she was like, no. Why? I was like, oh, they're so cute. And then I thought about it. I was like, why did I just say that? And then I literally scrubbed Google to look for all the pictures so I could just send her. So it wasn't like this weird thing I was trying to tell her something.
You were though.
I was. But it's a weird way to say it. You know what I mean? It's like a really weird way to say it. And so I sent all these pictures, but they didn't load because I was in the mountains, so they never sent. And so she was like, oh, okay. And so she then sent me pictures, and she's like, oh yeah, they are really cute. And I was like, oh my gosh, hallelujah. But yeah, so yeah, and then we got married in 2020. There's like 14 people, and yeah, and I like to say it just all came from sharing pieces of my heart and my story through music, you know, and that's why I always tell people, like, it doesn't matter where you're at, you got to share parts of who you are, and you never know who's going to connect with it, and you never know what kind of relationships we will build, and sometimes you'll find your wife, you know, and I did. So after we got married, we got pregnant 3 months later, and so it was just literally like proposal, marriage, kid, COVID, and it was just like so insane. And my son was 2 weeks old, and I asked my wife, I was like, look, I gotta take this business seriously. If we're gonna do this, like, I got a goal, and so I'm gonna invest like $6,000 into this coach. I just saw an ad, and he got me, so if he can do that, then it should probably work. So she's like, okay. So my first coaching call, my son was 2 weeks old, and I was on like multiple calls. It took me 6 months, but we were doing like only like $2,000 to $3,000 like dollars a month, and then he helped scale it to like 10 to 12,000. And it was. But it was a lot of mindset stuff, you know. Like, I think what's really interesting is what you were saying to me earlier, of like, now you are seen, you know. And I think that's the biggest thing, like, for me as a Filipino American, in my family, the biggest thing is like, I don't feel seen, I don't feel understood. Like, that's the thing I'm like constantly working on, right? So like that $250 is a lot, because I don't deserve that, you know what I mean? I get seen in this kind of way now, you know. So being here, it's like, it's also a kind of weird thing. It's like this weird, right? You desire it, you like it's not even necessarily like a desire, but like everyone wants to be seen and heard by people we care about, you know. And so when it happens, it feels weird. You know what I mean? It's like you're here and you're at this table and you're like, you're welcome. And it's almost like it feels strange to be there because you finally grew to a certain point to accept it.
Yeah. You earned your stripes.
Yeah.
It's such a different feeling too. I notice with people when I truly feel seen by someone in an exchange like this, where it can almost make me feel uncomfortable. Like they're really listening to me. They're not just thinking about what's for dinner or like thinking about something else. I feel very seen just because you are listening to me. And that's just in a casual conversation, you know? And so talking about something like this, where you're being even more seen, I'm curious how you create safety with your clients to help them feel seen, because you know what it feels like and how scary it can feel to tell your story. Add the lights, add the cameras, add all of the things. It's a whole other layer of vulnerability in that way. So I'm curious to pick your brain about like when you're working with clients and you feel them like closed up, what do you do to open them up a little bit so they can share their story?
Yeah.
You're good at this, by the way. You're very good at it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it starts from the very beginning of the sales process for me. It's like the mirror method, right? Is like in interviewing, if you want someone to sit a certain way or have a certain posture, then you need to do that. So they copy it. You know, it's a psychological thing, right? That they subconsciously are doing. So I take that same belief and idea with like vulnerability, right? Is if you want someone to be vulnerable fast, then you need to model it. You need to be vulnerable fast, and then they'll mirror that. So in the sales process, like on a call, I genuinely just like care. So I'm just going to listen, you know? And honestly, like the best way to tell stories, like everyone's like, I want to tell my story and stuff like that. I was like, well, how well do you listen? You know? And I don't tell that to people, but
But I'm thinking it.
But like, so the first process is like, okay, I take the time to listen, and most people just don't feel heard, right? And I think that's why maybe like now that I'm processing even more so is that probably why I'm good at it is because I take the time to listen, because I haven't felt heard as a child, right? And so I'm doing all I can so others don't feel the way that I do, you know? And so I have this opportunity to really care for people in those moments. And so I don't say most, but I would say a lot of times on sales calls, like people will start crying because people just don't ask questions. They don't care about their business. You know what I mean? Like it's this, how do I get the number at the end of the day, right? But for me, it's like, this doesn't work until I hear your story and you're willing to go there. If you're not willing to go there, I can't help you. You know what I mean? And so the comfortability aspect is like, so the reason why we do documentary style, right, is like it's non-scripted, right? You just capture what exists. It's as non-biased as possible. Obviously there's always going to be a bias based off of who's telling the story, right? But as much as possible, just capturing what we see and then communicating that. And so when we come in, it's like we're already become friends, and so instead of being people in a crew who have cameras, we end up becoming friends that so happen to have a camera, right?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and that's what we're hoping to like. So the process in it is we like to do podcast stuff with them, right? Because everyone in business needs to have at least content that looks like podcasts, right? So what we do is we sit down, it's informal, we ask all the questions, we go super raw, and then we get the story that way. Then we feel comfortable, and that's where we become real friends, you know? Yeah. So that then the next process, they already got the lights, they got the cameras, and then what we do is we like to do it at people's homes, because what is the place that you don't invite strangers in, right? And that's your home. And so visually, what does that do for the person watching is they're seeing you in their home, and you're inviting them like virtually into your home by sitting there and doing the interview. And so, but with that, for the founder, for them, they have a place that is controlled. It's their environment, and it's safe for them. And so that then allows them to be more vulnerable. We can ask them questions. We can see their family running around, and we'll have dinner with them. You know what I mean? Like it just becomes like, we just become like we're friends. It doesn't work unless that happens, you know? And so then part of the process too is we film them playing with their kids. We always encourage them, like, hey, like if they have like kids and stuff like that, but or their significant or other or like good friends, like we'll make sure that we are like, hey, this is our priority. We want to film you in your element, because like apart from like your business and what you're doing, that's really awesome, that's really great, but I believe, right, that our business matches our as a reflection of what our personal life is, right? And so how do we show that, and how much care you put into your family and the love that we can see there, then is how much is that going to look like with another baby of yours, right? And so those are ways that we create safety for them and care for them, where it just becomes a conversation. And so in filming process, I'm always right by the camera, and they're just talking to me. So I'm just asking questions. So they don't have to come with any like scripted stuff. We already have the story planned out, and then we just ask questions based off of that, and then we cut it. So just really trying to disarm them through that entire process. And then in the process, telling them where I'm at, how things are going and stuff. And so, those are our main ways of like, okay, this is how we show that we care, so that you can feel safe enough to show how you care.
One thing that you said that really stood out to me was when you have your discovery call with them and you really listen to them. That's important to you because you felt like you weren't listened to or seen within your family dynamic or your culture. And I know the way I operate in business is for the same reason. It's like the things that I didn't have, I'm over the top with those things because I never want someone to feel the way I felt in certain environments. And so I'm curious, because I don't think you answered this or touched on this. How did your family feel when you decided to go this route versus going to be a nurse or doctor?
Well, I just want to say, like, big shout out to my family, my parents, because it was so hard for them.
I know how that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the Filipino culture, parents talk, man. I mean, maybe it's every culture, but Filipino culture, it's like, what are your kids doing? And it's like, who has a nice purse? It's like, whose kid is doing the best? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
How parents have that dynamic, adults have that dynamic within their friend groups. Interesting, yeah.
Yeah. And so I remember this specific conversation where my mom sat me down and was like, so I was talking to my friend, because she's been a nurse for 30 some years, if not more. And she was like, I was talking to my friends and they were telling me how their kid is like becoming a lawyer, and then another kid's being a doctor. And they asked me like what like your kids are doing. And my brother at the time, he started as a bioengineer, but then he stopped the first year to go into like Asian American studies, and then like religion or something, or like Bible or something like that. And so she told them, her friends, like, yeah, so one son he's gonna probably be a pastor, and then the other son he's getting into music, I think. and they're like, wait, so like, how are they gonna make money? What are they gonna do with their lives? And she just started crying. Like, she's
Your
just like
mom
crying.
did?
Yeah, she's just like crying in front of me. Like, I'm just worried about you, 'cause it's all about stability, like as immigrants, like how they survived is being able to create a stable place for us. And my dad, he wanted to be an architect, but he didn't have enough money in the Philippines, so he had to be a drafter. And so his dream, and I remember he used to have all these comics. He used to be a real artist, but one of his like uncles like saw it. He's like, oh, this is a waste of your time. He like threw everything away. And it was like really sad. I just remember that so clearly. And so for me, they're always telling me like, one, like, do what God's put in your heart, but then also like, you gotta, we want to like, you can do anything that you put your mind to. That's what my dad would always tell me. And so I just remember thinking about like everything that they've done, and I'm like, look, like, I made me so sad to see her like that, because as a son of right, of my parents who are immigrants too. I'm like, I want to honor them. I want to respect them. I don't want them to look a certain way to their friends because of me. But I'm also like, I'm following what you're telling me to do. This is what I really believe I'm like called to. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know anything else. Like, I don't, like, even at 18, I was like, I'm not really sure, but this is what I should be doing. And I just know that what you provided for me is the things that you never had. And so now I get to take those risks because of what you did. And so for my dad, he never got to be an artist. So now I get to be an artist, and now like I get to take, like, I can do this entrepreneur route that you didn't have the money to do. Like, you didn't have the money to have. And they've supported me so much throughout the process, like financially even, which in a lot of my tough times, even like a year and a half ago, like they were still like helping me out because some crazy stuff happened that I couldn't expect. And so it's like, I think about it, I'm like, I don't know how people do it who don't have family, I'm just like, I don't know how people do it. And so for them, it was really, really tough. And I remember I was going to move to Pennsylvania and they sat me down. They're like, okay, are you sure this is what you want to do? Like, you don't have any money. You don't know anyone out there, like, it's like, are you sure? Like, you can stay here and you can stay with us, and then until you find like something. And I remember I was like, well, you told me to like do what I believe God's calling me to, right? And they're like, yeah, but it's my dad. I remember my dad. He looked at my mom. He's like, yeah, I mean, that's what we taught him. He's right. And so like we have to let him go, and I'll never forget that. Even till this day. They like, I remember throughout every single like year, my mom would call me and be like, are you sure you want to get a real job? And like, even like 2-3 weeks ago, she's like,
3 weeks ago?
No, seriously. She was like, aren't you tired? Aren't you exhausted? Like, cause she sees me all the time, like, cause, this stuff is so vulnerable, but last year we had like a studio and everything, like Paul and I, like, we built out and all this stuff, and some stuff happened and we lost everything like that, and we had to move out, and we moved all our stuff to my parents' garage. All in 24 hours, like super humbling. So at that point though, I mean, everything shifted, and talk about that another time, but so my mom will see, like, we store our stuff in the garage. So I still operate out of my parents' garage. And so they see me in and out, bring stuff. The crew will come and they'll get like our gear out of there. Cause just, in the garage there. And so she just asked me, she's like, don't you just like wish that you could just work, go home and not think about it anymore? And I'm like, no. Like, no.
Sounds horrible.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Violence.
No. But it's so funny because there's so many moments too where she's like, she'll read an article, like, I don't know, it's like 5-6 years ago, and she was like, yeah, I was reading this article, and it's controversial, whatever, but she's like, I was reading about Donald Trump and like how he built his business and stuff, and it just like reminds me of you, and stuff that she said. She was like, his rooms are messy. I was like, oh my gosh. But he knows where everything is. And I was like, exactly.
You're a genius.
Yeah,
right? Mastermind.
Exactly. So funny. I was like, thanks, Mom.
I love, though, that they ended up being really supportive of you, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
Some families do not end up that way.
Yeah.
It could break a family apart.
Yeah.
And so I love that they've been with you, and even though they'll drop those, are you sure this is what you want to do? Like, at the end of the day, they're like, come store your stuff in here. Come be with me if you need me. Like, that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's because they've seen that you genuinely love it. I get it. Like, I have a lot of support from my dad too. And throughout the years, there has definitely been times where I needed to lean on my dad. Like, I remember one year for retreat, this was like a few retreats ago, but I remember one year, like, something happened and I had like multiple women full refund, like right before retreat. And it just totally messed up the whole financial situation to the point where I was going to go get a loan to just like make up for that. And my dad was like, I would so much rather you borrow from the Bank of Peralta instead of go
Pay me the interest.
borrow from, that way, like, You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And we've talked about this before, like getting help from your family and things like that, and just like how humbling it can be. But when you do have that support and you do have that family and they see you, and ultimately as your child, all they want for you is for you to be happy and fulfilled and successful, of course.
Yeah.
Because there's totally been times where my dad has looked at me and he's just like, "You're still committed to this, huh?" You know, because I'm a single mom with a son, and it would,
Yeah.
you know, like even just going about getting health insurance for my kid, being an entrepreneur, my dad's like, but he sees what I'm doing and how impactful it is. And I'm sure that your family sees that too. And they're like, okay, Alex is really doing something meaningful that he loves. And I'm sure that they know in their heart of hearts, they know that it's gonna continue to pay off, and it's only gonna grow, and it's only gonna evolve because of the type of person that you are.
No, I appreciate that. No, that's really cool. It's cool to hear too, because I feel like it's not something you really get to hear other people talk about, you know, especially in the journey, because it's like part of it's like, oh, our client's going to see you differently, you know, because, you know, you're operating in that kind of way or have or whatever. But
It's the human experience.
yeah, absolutely. But it's like really cool because when I think back and I look back at stuff, like my mom and my dad, my dad's always like, I was like, what do you think about this? He's like, well, I was like, do you think I should start a business? I remember earlier on, he's like, well, it's plain as day that it's a gift that God's given you, you know, so you got to use it, you know? And so he's been like really supportive, like, yeah, you can do it. Of course you can. Like, go do it. And then my mom, she's more of the logical side of things. My dad's creative. So he's like, yeah, man, like go for it. And then my mom's like, but what are all the logistics?
It's
you know?
funny. It's usually the opposite. It's usually the other way
true,
around.
Yeah. But she'll always say like, just keep on going, keep on praying, like keep on putting God first, and it's gonna happen. Like I believe in you, like you got this, you know. But over the years, it's been really cool to see, and I wouldn't say that it's necessarily like because of me. I don't want to like say this, but I've just seen a shift in my family in general, where the younger generation, like my other cousins, like as we were doing the music label stuff, the community of artists, I would bring my cousins into it. A lot of them were designers, so they designed like our like CDs, our T-shirts, and like all the stuff like that. So you know, couldn't pay them that much, but we paid them and stuff. And as we grew, ended up continuing to bring them on, and they actually one of them went to do graphic design. One became a software like engineer and stuff, and still like doing like design work in that kind of way. Then my other cousins, younger than me, like maybe like 7-8 years, like ended up going to like film school and stuff like that. And another one who just graduated like did a lot of film in high school. And like those kind of conversations, man, that would have not been a thing in our family, you know. But it was like something that like I really had to fight for a really long time, to say it's worth it. I got to do it. I got to keep on going. And so when my other cousins had to go through that barrier, they got to see like my parents, right, like believe in me for me to keep on going, which I think really allowed the rest of the family dynamic and her sisters to be like, okay, like go ahead and do it. And now like my cousin, freaking, oh my gosh, they just hit like 1 million subscribers on YouTube.
What?
And like, yeah, like I mean, they're killing it. And so it's like really cool that for me the goal was always to help my friends and the people I care about believe that they could do it. And if that looks like seeing dynamics of my family change to help them be able to take this route of creativity with whatever, you know, part I had in it, it's just really fun to see. So it's like really cool. Okay, there's a ripple effect. And if that's like all that I get to do, which is not, but it's
a big piece of it. Yeah. It's that generational level up, creating space. And especially in our generation, this is a huge part of the culture. There is so much opportunity for creatives now more than ever. So it's like you had to be the one to go first to open that door. And I'm so glad that you did.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you did. Do you have any last questions for Alex?
Just one thing that you said that stuck out to me was, I think you said, if God gives you a gift, like you had to. utilize it, or you had to move forward with that. And I just think that's so important, because just like Mel said, in this day and age, anything's possible creatively, like anything's possible. And so many of us have a gift, and just use it. Just use it. You know what I mean? And it makes me sad to even think that there's still family dynamics where someone is feeling like they have to be an attorney, or they have to be a doctor, or they have to take over the family business, when it's like, my gift is in this. And so I just love this happy ending that your family was just like, yes, we love you and support you. We think you're wild and crazy, but like, we still love you and we're here for you. So thank you for sharing those elements, because what I'm really taking from this conversation is overcoming, like, kind of when the like odds were against you. You know, that's what it felt like to me. And to me, that's inspiring to know that you still followed your gift and you followed your passion, and now look where you're at. It's really inspiring.
No, I really appreciate that. Yeah, it means a lot. There's this verse that says, like, you know, your gift will bring you in front of like mighty and great people, you know, and it's so humbling. It's like so humbling to think that a camera and storytelling can bring me into rooms that I would have never, ever imagined in my life. It's like, I mean, there's like countless things where I'm in like a boardroom in the House of Representatives with like, just like having a conversation about stuff. It's just like, how is this a thing? And then I'm like in a table of like CEOs at like 20 years old, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here in a Fortune 500 company, and they're like, yeah, so what do you think? You care about my opinion? You guys have this you know, it's like, it's wild. So like, you know, we can get a chance to like do some stuff at the Super Bowl, and like I get to go to London next week for 3 weeks and take my family to do some work, you know, and like things that it's like, it wasn't because necessarily that I'm like, I mean, sure, I'm good at what I do, but it's not just because I'm good at what I do. It's like, it's because I was consistent, I was faithful, I believed in a gift, I honed into it, and I kept on working on it. And I still am continuing to work on it. And even when I didn't believe in myself, like fully, there was something that was like, this is here, I have to use it. And so even if you don't believe in it, but you have it and you just use it, it will do more things than you'll realize. And then you will eventually believe it did. And so, yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. And I'm so thankful.
Dude, I'm not surprised that you're having those experiences. I'm not surprised that your journey is unfolding the way that it is, because to me, just from the outside looking in, it sounds like you are really getting to a level in your story where you are operating from so much love and heart. You're operating at such a high vibration that you are truly magnetizing these people and these experiences to you, and I can say that because I'm one of them. Truly, like, I meet so many people. I go to so many events and so many experiences, and I don't always feel drawn to everybody, you know, but you were definitely a standout human being to me. And just hearing your story, like the common thread throughout everything that you shared, including the story of your wife and all of that, it was like, he's such a lover. He's got so much love inside of him, and that love also goes into your work and your processes, the process of how you even go into people's homes, and everything is done with so much love. And that's rare. That's really, really rare these days. So I see nothing but beautiful things on the way for you, and I'm so glad that we got to have you today, and that we got to share you and your story. And I mean, I'm sure there's so many more levels and layers to your story, but thank you for sharing pieces of it with us today. We're so grateful. How can people find you online, and how can they get connected to what you're doing?
Absolutely. Well, thank you both again for having me. And I love what you both are doing. I was watching some of your episodes, and this morning I was watching one of them, and I was just like, I got really emotional watching you both talk, because I was like, I realized that you guys just care. a lot, and it comes through. And I was like trying to think, like, because it kept on happening. I was like getting teary eyed, and I was just like, because I just see the passion that you both have, you know. And I was like, man, this is so. I'm really excited just to actually like hang out and talk with you both. So love the heart and how you're caring and helping tell other people's stories in this kind of way. And yeah, so thank you for doing this for all of us. I really appreciate it. You both are so awesome. So, thank you. Yeah. Instagram. Yes. Alexander Catedral is my personal, yeah. And then the business is Catedral Collective, but Catedral_collective. And then, yeah, you can email me too.
Is there anything that you got coming up that you want people to look out for?
There's this really cool podcast I'm on with two amazing people. It's on the Humanhood, I believe it's. Please be on the lookout.
Plug that.
Plug.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited. I'm thankful for this. So. Yeah.
So, well, everybody go give Alex a follow. Keep an eye out for all the things that he's doing. I believe the Untitled Gathering, you are going to be releasing that.
Yes.
Right?
I can't wait to watch
I'm a part of that. Okay.
Yes.
It was really beautiful. So stay tuned. And if you are wanting docu-series, document style, if you're just wanting heart-filled video at all, you're wanting people to capture your life in a certain way, definitely reach out. And thank you guys for joining us. Until next time. Bye.